While walking through the bustling market after a fruitful day of begging, Pio, a 14-year-old orphan, carried a content smile on his face. His bowl was filled with more food than he had hoped for, a sign that his luck was finally turning around. With determination in his eyes, he moved forward, envisioning a chance at a normal life ahead. As Pio journeyed toward his next nighttime location, his thoughts lingered on his past. But fate had something unexpected in store for him. A stranger with an enigmatic presence crossed his path, causing Pio's world to suddenly lose its vibrant colours. In the blink of an eye, he found himself in a dark and desolate place, all alone. Struggling to rise, he realized his strength was no match for the overwhelming despair that washed over him, tears and shivers consuming his fragile frame. Amidst his fear and confusion, Pio's memories came rushing back. Did the stranger have a connection to this grim situation? Pio pondered, uncertain of his captor's motives. Despite his own innocence and lack of animosity toward the stranger, Pio was trapped in this mysterious darkness, unable to fathom why. Drowning in a sea of emotions, Pio's grasp on reality slipped further away. In the suffocating darkness, time lost all meaning. He wept, the weight of his loneliness and terror bearing down on him. Hunger gnawed at his stomach, while the fear of losing his sanity became a tangible presence. Pio's worries seemed to merge, overwhelming him in a torrent of uncertainty. Gradually, a shift occurred within Pio. The raw fury he felt began to give way to acceptance. He questioned less why he was facing this torment and focused more on his will to endure it. Weak, his eyes swollen from tears and lips bloody from biting them, Pio sensed a change, an easing of his breath, a slight reawakening of sensation, a glimmer of hope. His strength slowly returned, and with it, a newfound clarity. As Pio's senses reawakened, he pieced together his surroundings. The echoes of dripping water indicated a possible source of sustenance. In this life-or-death moment, Pio rallied his energy. Crawling inch by inch, he advanced, each movement a testament to his determination. His fingers grazed the rough surface of a wall, and he paused, carefully analysing his prison. In a moment of desperation, Pio inserted his finger into a small crevice, hoping for a sign, a way out. Pain shot through his finger as he withdrew it, his instinctive reaction bringing the wounded digit to his lips. Collapsing onto the ground once more, Pio's hope wavered. Before we continue, take a moment to answer the question of the day. What is the most important skill of an assassin? Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out. Now back to the recap. Exhausted after trying so hard, Pio Wool found himself lying on the ground. Someone who looked very much like him walked over. With a quick glance, Pio realized he was looking at his own reflection. A strange image appeared, resembling him. It asked Pio why he was struggling so much to survive in this situation. Pio could only stare in surprise, feeling the mockery in its gaze. The figment laughed at his efforts, making everything Pio did seem pointless. It tried to trick Pio into giving up, but Pio had other plans. He wanted to survive, no matter how tough things got. Even though the figment was trying to scare him, Pio was determined not to give in. Revenge fueled his will to live. Waking up from sleep, Pio wondered if the encounter was a dream or a sign of his growing madness, but he was determined. He got up again, his determination giving him strength. Walking over to the wall, he studied it closely once more. He spotted moss growing on the wall. Hunger made him decide to eat it, using anything he could to survive. Pio's resolve pushed him forward. Done with the moss, he used the wall for support as he got up. He began exploring the area, trying to figure things out. His calculations suggested he was in a space about 3 by 3 jangs in size. Someone had trapped him here, that much was clear. Suddenly he heard a sound, an iron door. It creaked open slightly, allowing some light in. Pio's heart raced as he saw a hand and a shadow. The hand left food in the room. Pio's keen sense of smell told him there were different types of food. That meant more than one person was involved in his capture, perhaps more than 5. Pio Wool, a captive in a dark place, figures out that he might not be alone in this misery. Others also seem to suffer like him. Hungry, he doesn't hesitate and digs into the food before him. As his hunger is satisfied, his face gains a renewed energy. He's been confined here, working on his body for the past 4 months, creating a routine around the daily food that arrives silently. In time, the darkness becomes more familiar, allowing him to spot even the crawling insects. Amidst his triumph, a snake slithers out of the shadows and wraps around his arm. Pio Wool, puzzled and frightened, is bitten within seconds. Agony courses through him and he clings to his arm, panic and fear painted across his face. The pain is unbearable, the area turns red and veiny, yet it doesn't ebb. A small door opens, offering his daily meal. He seizes it, distressed but determined to endure. He finishes eating, lying on the ground, the snake lurking nearby. Gradually his face regains a semblance of calmness as he gazes at the snake whose venom nearly killed him. After the detoxifying process, his vision improves. Stories of people gaining strength from snake bites cross his mind, leading him to a daring decision. He lets the snake bite him once more. His veins pop out, his body ignites with a different fire, less painful than before. As the pain subsides, his eye color changes. With enhanced vision, he sees the door vibrate and open for the first time. P.O. Wool steps out, entering the next room. A foul odor hits him as he opens the door, revealing a corpse as old as himself. He moves forward. After a while, he sees an iron door blocking the hallway, its bolts taken out. P.O. Wool forces it open and finds two people inside, a girl and a boy. P.O. Wool walks into the new room and sees them. He checks a room on his left, only to find a corpse. The girl, So Yo-Wol, asks P.O. Wool who he is and where he comes from. She explains that she and the boy are the only survivors. P.O. Wool realizes she's not used to the darkness like him. He introduces himself and says he's trapped just like them. The girl, So Yo-Wol, mentions more places like this in the dark. They introduce themselves. The boy, Song, and P.O. Wool move on, with P.O. Wool suggesting they follow him. So Yo-Wol holds his hand for guidance. They reach another iron door, this time finding a bigger group of people. P.O. Wool looks around and realizes these people died differently, more from suicide than starvation. He notices more bowls and food compared to his area. So Yo-Wol tells P.O. Wool that everyone on this side was trapped about 4 months ago too. P.O. Wool leads the group, and they find another iron door, but this time it leads to light. The group enters a village-like area with torches. They notice the structures were erected hastily. A white-haired, blue-eyed girl named Lee Min introduces herself and says she's under P.O. Wool's care. He wonders if snake bites caused his red eyes. Lee Min questions him, and P.O. Wool thinks about the snake bites. So Yo-Wol interrupts and talks about sticking together as a group. P.O. Wool and Lee Min express their thoughts. P.O. Wool decides to see how things go, and Lee Min also joins the group. They all walk into the darkness, forming factions and groups. People are divided into 4 factions, while P.O. Wool remains alone. Rumours about P.O. Wool spread, but he doesn't pay attention. He examines the walls and notices the underground space was built long ago, suggesting immense wealth. A hole in the ceiling opens and a basket of food descends. The group rejoices and feasts on the food, rushing to get their fair share. The challenge had begun. The teams were tasked to divide the food equally, with their leaders working together. P.O. Wool was determined to take his share, but was stopped by Yom. P.O. Wool was furious and attacked Yom, causing a tense standoff. The others intervened, telling P.O. Wool to let Yom be. Despite this, P.O. Wool continued to hurt Yom, causing Yo-Wol to step in and calm things down. As everyone ate, P.O. Wool realized that the test was meant to weed out the strongest children. Yobleton approached P.O. Wool, warning him of the consequences his actions could bring. The survival of their groups was at stake. Although P.O. Wool resisted, Yo-Wol tried to convince him to join her faction. The situation escalated as members were found dead. Suspicion and paranoia grew, leading to more deaths. P.O. Wool worked alone, knowing that the peace wouldn't last. One day, a group approached, seeking revenge against P.O. Wool. Yom was with them, hungry for revenge. A snake attacked their adversaries, giving P.O. Wool an opportunity to fight back. Yom tried to manipulate him, but P.O. Wool saw through the lies. In a final confrontation, P.O. Wool overpowered Yom, defeating him. P.O. Wool stood before Yom's lifeless body, explaining that he did it because he was still weak. Yom's group was wiped out, and the other leaders found their bodies. The blame immediately goes to P.O. Wool for their murder in the dungeon. People start thinking about P.O. and his brilliant brains and brawn, and how cunning he's all around. His circumstances here are dire. Eventually, people need to be killed to save the already decreasing ration to ensure proper survival. Along with that, there is tension amongst the people as they are avoiding P.O. Wool too. In this family-like condition, news reaches the Go Youngsin faction that the Soyo faction has banished 2 kids from the Northern Red House and holds a necessary food item, a meager potato. And since food is scarce, everyone charges in on the kids as their aura changes to that of bloodthirsty barbarians. Yongsan only looks in shock. The 2 kids were Yongsin and his men. Into a narrow pathway with a girl whistling to give some kind of cue. The very next moment, people from that faction jump out and attack the Youngsin faction. They have been trapped. Yongsan shouts that they have been trapped, but it is all too late. Suddenly, even Yongsan himself is surrounded by these people with wooden bars. Then Sir Yo-Wol and Song show themselves while being optimistic that they can eradicate this entire group. Yongsan looks at the 2 with utter rage in his eyes. He glares at them for a short while and then calms down, subsequently asking her if she will be satisfied after taking the wives of everyone to which she replies that if Yongsin takes her stead, he might as well do the same. With that, she gives her final order to kill everyone. What will happen next? Find out next time by staying tuned for our future recaps. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more great recaps.